Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Katie and I make book-related videos every single Wednesday, and although, as you can tell from the title, the point of this video is to be a spoiler-free review of The Cruel Prince, I have to pause before we talk about that because I have a Gillian Flynn update. No, she is not coming out with a new book. Don't be ridiculous. We can't get our hopes up that much, but almost as good. She has written a screenplay for a new movie and the trailer just came out and it looks so good. So I want to say thank you to Sasha. She tweeted me about this because I had no idea, but it's called Widows. She wrote the screenplay. It has Viola Davis. She's the lead female and she got me so pumped in the trailer, but from what I can tell, it's about 4 women whose husbands are criminals. They're all killed, which is why it's called Widows. That's not a spoiler. And so then some bad men come after the widows because they now are the ones in debt to their husband's money, and so they attempt to pull off a heist. So it kind of looks like Ocean's 8, but good. I'm just kidding, Ocean's 8 does look good, it looks fun, but you guys know what I mean. This just looks amazing, and it also has Colin Farrell, who I have a mild obsession with. Although I did not like Fantastic Beasts, I did enjoy looking at him in it. Anyway, like I said, the purpose of this video, I'm going to be reviewing The Cruel Prince, and I know if you haven't been subscribed to my channel for that long, you might be thinking, Katie, a super hyped young adult fantasy novel doesn't really seem like it's right up your alley, but if you've been watching my channel for a very long time, you will remember that I am obsessed with Holly Black. She was one of my favorite authors when I was little growing up. I absolutely loved Tithe and Valiant. It really got me into the whole fae world. But anyway, I'm going to get into a summary and then pros and cons, and of course no spoilers as usual. Our protagonist of The Cruel Prince is Jude. She's human and she has one twin sister named Taryn, and then she has another sister named Vivi who is part elf, and when they are little they're living in the human world, and her mother's former lover husband, who is fae, comes, murders their mother, murders their human father, and takes them all back to the fae world. And then it flashes forward about 10 years later. Jude is a teenager and she's very upset about the fact that, you know, now she's grown up in the fae world, she wants to be fae, but she's human, therefore mortal. Very jealous of the immortal lives that the fae have. There's also a lot going on because the king of this world is about to crown one of his children, so there's a lot of political intrigue going on there. And then of course there's romance, murder, all that kind of stuff. And first, getting into pros, I absolutely loved the relationship between these 3 sisters, Taryn, Jude, and Vivi. I also like the fact we had some LGBT representation with Vivi, who has a girlfriend, and I do have to say Vivi was by far my favorite character, and by that I mean she also kind of just irritated me least throughout the entire book. I loved her mentality that, you know, even though she's fae, she's the one who really never forgave, I forgot his name again, Maddox, the man who murdered their parents and took them back to the fae world. And even though Maddox, you know, raises them and he's very kind to them, she never forgives him, which I absolutely loved, whereas Jude and Taryn over time did come to kind of see him as a father figure. So yes, overall I loved their relationship, love Vivi the most if I have to pick, which I'm going to. I also adored the world building, although granted I will say I don't read a ton of fantasy, so I don't know if I'm necessarily the best judge of world building, but I really enjoyed it. This is gonna sound odd, and maybe it's just because I've cut out a lot of sugar lately, but I love the descriptions of all of their food. And to be clear, I didn't cut out fruit, we're just talking candy, super processed white bread, stuff like that. But anyway, I loved the descriptions of all of the food. Everything just seemed so simple, but also decadent and rich, and it just made me want to start cooking. And the descriptions of the clothing, and I know all of this stuff seems very frivolous, but I think a lot of the stuff in the fae world is, so it does kind of draw you in and really sweep you away. Also, I would say for the first 3/4 of the book, I really liked the pacing. The last 1/4 of the book, I didn't like the pacing as much, and I guess that's a good segue for me to go into cons, because as much as I loved this book for the first 50% or so, it did start to drag a tiny bit for me, and I did have a few issues with it. But again, when I get into cons here, it's not necessarily bad things about the book, because by no means do I think this is a bad book. I think it's super fun. I can see why people love it. There were just reasons why by the time I finished it, I didn't love it as much as I was loving it towards the beginning, just for my personal preferences. So let's go ahead and get into the cons. So the first thing that bothered me a little bit were the tropes. And I don't know how to describe this first one because this isn't a trope I've heard people talk about, so I don't know how to phrase it in a really succinct way. But Holly Black would continually like poke you as a reader with these hints for things that were to come. And anytime it was a hint, it wasn't necessarily obvious what she was hinting at, but you could tell Holly Black was like, here's a hint, here's a hint. Like for a lot of the book, you're wondering, Taryn has this secret boyfriend and you don't know who it is. And anytime it came up, it was just like, here's a hint, make a note of that, remember that for the ending. And it was just, and it started to like grate on me. There were a lot of different instances of like poking you with hints really obviously about plot points, even about things that weren't Taryn's boyfriend. And then Jude herself felt a little bit tropey to me. She never felt like a real person to me. She just felt like a bit of a stereotype of, here's a teenage girl, she's been pushed too many times and now she's rebelling and she's making stupid decisions and not thinking, and it just, she never felt real or realistic to me. She just felt like a little bit of a cookie cutter teenage girl who's like strong and rebelling, which is good, but it just didn't feel like it was done in a very realistic way. And then this next part isn't something I disliked, it was just something I didn't end up enjoying as much as I thought I would, and that is the Cruel Prince Cardan, who I just realized I haven't talked about him in this video yet, which kind of says a lot for how I feel about him, which is just that he didn't have a big impact on me in any way. And I'm not saying that that's a terrible thing, because I overall enjoyed his character. I liked learning more about him, but I think just because it's called The Cruel Prince, I was just picturing that every time he came onto the page, I'd be like, oh, what's he gonna do next? What's gonna happen? This person, whether or not they're good or bad, is super interesting. And I was just never very interested by him. Like I saw Liz Loves Lit on Goodreads, she made this, and I have to admit, I love that image and everything she did there more than I liked Cardan throughout the entire book. And again, I don't think he's badly written. I think he has a lot of depth. Just for my personal preferences, considering it's called The Cruel Prince, I just personally was not interested in The Cruel Prince. And one question I have for you guys, and it has to do with that picture that Liz Loves Lit posted. Depending on your age, how like off in your mind do you picture the characters? Because I will admit, bringing up Colin Farrell twice in this video, I would try and picture Colin Farrell as Cardan, which makes no sense age-wise, because I assume Cardan's supposed to probably look like he's, what, 17, and Colin Farrell is 42. Yes, I know that. Anyway, that got me thinking that it doesn't matter what age the character is in the book. I'm just gonna randomly pick a celebrity I'm attracted to and then picture the character as that. So I'm curious, do you guys do that too? If you're younger, do you picture the characters as younger? If you're older, do you picture the characters as older? And now this is making me kind of want to make a video where I talk about all the celebrities I picture as the different characters. But so overall, those are my thoughts on The Cruel Prince. I did think it was highly addictive and a lot of fun, so I would definitely recommend it. I will say though, considering how hyped up it was, to me it didn't feel like Holly Black's best book ever written or one of the best books I've ever read. So if you haven't read a fairy book in a while, I do recommend it, but overall personally, I just didn't love any of the characters enough to make me fall head over heels in love with it, if that makes sense. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, please let me know, who do you picture when you're reading books, especially ones like this one where maybe you're a very different age than the characters. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday.